this the first time you find one of my videos, welcome. If you are coming back and you've actually watched a few of my things before, thanks for returning, because I didn't think it would actually ever get any views whatsoever. So, G&G l85 AFV, responsive. 5-round burst.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
With a little bit of a difference. And no, it's not a bingo kit. Because bingo kits I cannot find in the UK, and they're only in America, and they're $120. And fuck paying that. Plus I like to build shit. So, this thing was built about 4 years ago. It basically came into fruition around COVID time. I was bored. Somebody said you can't do it. Then they said you shouldn't do it. So I thought, you know, fuck it, why not? Give me something to do. So yeah, I originally lent this out to Steve at Angry Bull Airsoft. He did a little bit of a video on it, but he only covered obviously externals, trigger, where the trigger was, airline in the back, never went inside. So I thought it's about time I actually opened this thing up on camera while I've got it back, because it doesn't belong to me anymore, it belongs to a friend of mine, and show people what's inside it, because they've been asking on a few of the pages, on the owners groups, and yeah, why not? So, as I say, originally I wanted to HP one of these, but the problem we had is the standard gearbox. This is an armament one, but I'm going to use it for example, is a offset nozzle. Now, there was a possibility of using a Hydra in one of these from Wolverine, but the issue that I came across was when I opened the top half up, is there's a casting here. Whether that'll actually show just on camera. Where is it? Just there's a casting and a proprietary cylinder head. So the Hydra wouldn't fit, and I didn't want to shell out for a Hydra, because if it didn't fit, I got nothing else to put it in, so what was the point in buying one? So I thought, you know what, I'll buy an Inferno Gen 2. I've got one of those in my little PDW build, enjoyed it, works really well, so let's get another one. So I nipped up to see the lads at High Pressure. I said, right, this is what I want. I want an Inferno Gen 2, but I want it with the M249 FCU. I want a custom trigger board so I can use my own trigger switches. And that is about it. So they put me a kit together and asked me what I was building. I told them. They were like, oh, I'd like to see that when it's done. And yeah, they've seen it. They liked it, but I'm not obviously sharing the design just yet. So as it stands, we'll start with the lower. Really basic. Got rid of the gearbox out of the back. All that sits in there now is a 3D printed block, which is about that big, with a little micro switch just in there. So when the selector is moved, whether it will focus it in, just flicks the micro switch just to tell it whether it's in semi or whether it's in full. And the front end, same again, another little 3D printed block with another micro switch. This one actually running normally closed, so because it's on the trigger bar system. So when you pull the trigger, just releases the switch. Nice and simple. I've made that one so that I can actually place the trigger switch mount wherever I want it, so then obviously I can predetermine where I want the trigger to rest, excuse me, and where I want the trigger to release. So where I've mounted it works fine. Standard safety, still works. Jobs are good. I'm actually tempted to try the trigger switch from Bennett English Kiwi. He's done one that should give a realistic trigger break, but I don't know how it will fare to obviously the switch activating and actually activating the HPA unit. I don't know whether it will kick in too early, but it's something I'm probably going to try in the future. And then obviously the only other main change to the lower receiver is the back end's been drilled out for the airline. I've put it in this place just solely because when I want the rifle shouldered, I want the airline to come out under my arm, so it's not dangling down, it's not catching into anything, it's not really on show, and it looks pretty much standard. So yeah, the main thing was the upper receiver. I wanted to build the actual mounting for the engine so it just lived in the upper, and that's where it stayed. There was nothing connected to the lower because I didn't want alignment issues. I wanted to try and negate that fact entirely, because let's face it, trying to align something that's sat in the lower on the upper on a bit of pressed steel, you're going to be fighting it for days, and I thought this was the better way of doing it. So we built the housing to literally just sit in the upper receiver and be fully adjustable, and to adjust it while it's not even connected to the lower. So that screw there and that screw there, you'd use that to predetermine left and right where it's set in the receiver, so you can center the nozzle. And obviously there's a screw just there for the back section, which then is sprung loaded, and that allows that to adjust the engine up and down while it's in the receiver. Just makes things really simple. And then once that screw's set, and that one's set, you never have to adjust it again. Even when obviously you take those 5 screws out, take your engine out, service it, put it back in, everything's still preset where you've left it, lines up perfect every time. So reassembly, really simple. That drops in there, that drops into there. It's a lot easier to do when you're on camera. Solenoid connection, so it's in there, everything is tucked out of the way. Usually when I do these, I've got a 7.4 battery that sits in the pistol grip. This one, I had the space for a larger battery because originally it had a max hop unit in there with a UV tracer module, and that worked really well because I ran it off the 249 FCU with a little MOSFET just in here, and it was brilliant for CQB because then you didn't have to have a tracer sticking out the front. Everything was internal, worked really well, but I don't really play CQB much, so I didn't see the point in it. Plus the max hop unit just gave more problems than was actually needed, so I swapped it back out to a ZCI polymer unit, which are fucking brilliant. They're cheap, they're cheerful, they work in pretty much everything. I've got one in my Scar. It's never caused me any problems, unlike those max units, which, to be fair, in my eyes, are a fucking waste of money. But it's one of those things, you see something new and shiny in airsoft, everyone raves about it, so you've got to try it and learn the hard way. I mean, I've got 2 in some Crytek receivers, the newer generation ones, and yeah, they're coming out. They're a pain in the arse. They're just too fine a tolerance in my eyes, but it is what it is. So yes, that is my conversion for the L85. I mean, I don't know whether to take it a little bit further, whether I'm going to release the files, whether I'm going to charge for the files. I don't know yet, but I just thought I'd put a bit of a video out there just showing what I'd built, how I'd built it. Yeah, and I just thought it was a bit of a better design than the one that sits in the lower receiver, just to make life a little bit simple. But obviously trigger response, just it does its job. And when you put a little suppressor on these are deadly silent. You just can't hear them. So yeah, that's the little L22 project, and I've been given another one, so I'm going to be building the A1 as well. One thing to note, I'm going to add this: if anyone has the G&G lower and they've got an armament upper, they don't mesh properly. The army armament is actually 2mm wider than the G&G upper receivers, so there is a bit of compatibility issue there. It will go on with a squeeze, but it won't sit right, so just in case anyone was wondering, because I know you can pick these up really cheap. The bodies are solid, the gearboxes are trash. I mean, that gearbox is here. Where is it? Yeah, there's a little bit missing off that. That should have actually had the section that hooks onto there, but this is one of the reasons I wanted to HP one, because the copy of these is garbage, absolute garbage. The G&G one's better, but they're not very cheap. For one of those retail, you're looking about £400. And if you say anything, if you're going to do this sort of thing to it, HPA, your best bet is to find a boneyard body. As long as the externals are good, if you're going to gut the rest of it, it's the better way to go. But as I say, HPA is not for everyone. Oh, solely because there's too many people out there abusing it. And honestly, if you're one of those people, please, because there's just no need for it. Sitting there pre-firing, spamming rounds around the corners, and stupid high rates of fire. Anything over 20 rounds, there's just no need for it. Yeah, we've all been there, we've done that, we've giggled at it. Get the inner child out of your system, get it gone, and actually play responsibly for once. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. That was the video, and see you next time.